All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not just looking at some new tech. Nope, we are looking at a contender stepping into a full-blown battlefield. This is the story of PROM, in its fight to survive Ethereum's invisible, high-stakes war for scalability.
So just picture this ideal world for a second. It all starts with the foundation, the base layer for everything, Ethereum.
And then, you layer on top the entire universe of decentralized finance, all the protocols, all the liquidity, just humming along.
And on top of that, you've got the next wave of on-chain gaming, where every single move is a transaction, needing insane speed and practically zero cost.
Now the dream, the holy grail, is to have all of this working together seamlessly. No more clunky, awkward bridges, no friction, no waiting around, just pure, fast execution.
Projects like PROM and I are trying to build that invisible layer to make it all a reality. But, we have to ask the really tough question here. Is this the actual future of blockchain infrastructure, or are we just looking at another project jumping into a market that is already completely jam-packed?
So let's pull back the curtain and see what PROM is all about. Its entire reason to exist is to solve what is, without a doubt, Ethereum's single biggest headache, scalability.
At its heart, PROM is an Ethereum Layer 2, and it uses this really cool tech called Zero Knowledge, or ZK for short. The goal is pretty simple, at least in theory. You take thousands of transactions, bundle them up off the main chain, prove they're all legit, and then post just a single, tiny proof back to Ethereum. And what do you get? Well, you get the lightning speed and low cost of an L2, but you inherit the absolute rock-solid security of the main Ethereum network. Best of both worlds, right?
So how does PROM actually pull this off? Well, its whole strategy really boils down to three key pillars. First, you've got the engine, the ZK-rollups that bundle everything for maximum efficiency. Second, and this is absolutely critical, it's EVM compatible. That just means developers can basically copy-paste their existing Ethereum apps over without a huge headache. And for you, the user, that means more tools and services right out of the gate. And third, its architecture is modular, meaning it's flexible enough to handle anything from DeFi and gaming to even some wild future AI stuff.
And this right here, this says it all. This is the why. Before Layer 2s, using Ethereum often meant painfully high fees, slow transactions, and a network that felt like it was stuck in traffic. The promise of something like PROMA is the exact opposite. Super low costs, crazy high speeds, and the power to scale up no matter how much demand there is.
Okay, so the tech sounds pretty great, but this is where the story gets a lot more, well, complicated. Because having great tech is one thing. Surviving in the market we have today, that is a whole different ballgame. The Layer 2 space is just brutally saturated right now.
I mean, look at this list. The space is absolutely packed with giants like Arbitrum and Optimism, not to mention heavy hitters like Base and ZK Sync. PROM isn't walking onto an empty stage. It's stepping into a gladiator arena. And that's the key takeaway here. Great technology isn't the main differentiator anymore. What really matters now is adoption, users, liquidity, the strength of your entire ecosystem.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. In this war for Layer 2 dominance, the winner isn't always the project with the most brilliant code. The winner is the one that actually gets people to build on it, use it, and trust it.
So how in the world does a project like PROM plan to stand out from that crowd? Well, this is where their strategy takes a really interesting twist. They're trying to carve out a unique identity by positioning themselves as the go-to infrastructure for AI on the blockchain.
The vision here is pretty wild, actually. It's this idea of a machine economy. Imagine AI agents that basically live on the blockchain, automatically firing off transactions, playing in DeFi, and moving value around all without a human lifting a finger. For something like that to even be possible, you need a network that can handle millions of tiny, complex calculations and do it all privately and efficiently. And that is exactly what ZK rollups and a modular design are good for. Now, this isn't happening tomorrow, but it's the specific niche that PROM is aiming for.
All right, let's put all the pieces on the table. It's time for a clear-eyed, no-fluff assessment of where PROM actually stands, looking at the very real risks and the possible futures.
When you put PROM side by side with the giants, the differences are stark. Arbitrum and Optimism, they already have huge, liquid, and mature ecosystems. PROM is still very much in the if you build it, they will come phase. The fight is shifting away from just technology, where PROM is actually really strong with ZK, and it's moving towards network effects and who has the most compelling story.
So the risks here are no joke. You've got that insane market saturation, the monumental challenge of pulling users and money away from the established leaders and being totally dependent on Ethereum. Heck, even its unique ZK story is becoming more common. But really, all of these risks boil down to one huge primary danger: failing to stand out and just getting lost in all the noise.
When you look at all this, you can basically map out 3 potential futures for PROM. Best case scenario, the AI narrative really catches on, and it becomes a key piece of infrastructure for that niche. The middle of the road scenario is that it finds its footing as a solid but niche layer 2 for very specific technical uses. And then there's the negative scenario, where it just gets completely overshadowed and eclipsed by the giants who have too much of a head start.
And all of this brings us to one final question, one that's way bigger than just PROM. Looking at the future of the entire Ethereum ecosystem, do you think we're going to see this vibrant, diverse landscape with lots of different layer 2s for different things? Or is it just inevitable that a handful of massive players will swallow the market and dominate everything? I'd love to know what you think.